Hi everyone, my name is Tim Hermes. I am the founder and publisher of Broadband Technology Report, and welcome to another one of our fairly regular events, which we call our Technology Google Hangouts. I'm joined today by three very capable gentlemen, and we're going to have a very informal discussion about some takeaways from the SCTE Cable Tech Expo, which was just can't believe it was already a month ago, and talk about some of the emerging technologies that we saw out there at the show. Maybe have a little bit of some crosstalk about some of the things that operators as well as vendors are doing in the space, and learn a little bit more at the end of the conversation about these companies as well. I am very lucky to be joined by three very talented, capable, as well as smart individuals on camera here. First, of course, is Cyril Morel, one of my good friends from the industry, who is the president and CEO of VeEX. Hello, Cyril. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And then John Carlucci, who's the CTO from Alticast. Nice to see you, John.
Good to see you, Tim. Thanks for having me.
And then last is Greg Fisher, who's also the CTO for Hitron Technologies. How are you, Greg?
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here.
Good to hear from each of you, and I'm glad we're able to make the call today. So I've been in the business maybe about 25 years, and I remember in the late 90s and the early 2000s, it was a very exciting time for the cable industry because of triple play. I remember voice, data, and video, and I remember all the new companies coming out with cable modems, and gosh, you know, and the first DOCSIS spec, and this was back 1999, 2000, 2001, more or less. And the industry was going crazy, and there was many more trade shows than there were now, and there was a lot of excitement. Every booth at every trade show had something new and exciting, and you knew that the one company was going to end up getting acquired by another company because there was such a good synergy and fit of their products. And the company expanded, the industry expanded, and then it contracted, and then it expanded again. And it's been going on that way for quite some time because it's telecom and speed and bandwidth is everything, but also business is business, and there's always great opportunities as the customer has more demands. The industry always reacts. So when I was walking the floor this year, I noticed much the same thing. Of course, triple play is old hat now. I think most people have it of some type. Although a lot of folks are now cutting the cord and going over the top, and that's a whole other discussion. But there was a couple things that that I saw that I noticed at the show that I wanted to. I thought that it would be really good to have three experts who can maybe jump on the phone with me and share a little bit more about it. Now, I've probably spoken more than I should have already. So I'm going to start with you, Cyril. You and I had a chance to sit down and say hello, and even did an interview, I think, when we were there at the show. Your booth was very, very busy. I know that you also had some new gear out there, but really from an executive who's active in the industry and is understanding what's going on with the operators as far as their needs and the new technology, as well as where you see the business going and what you noticed at the show. Tell me a little bit about your ambling around the show floor and what you saw and what you enjoyed. But before you do, I'd like Greg and John, I'd like you to encourage you guys to speak up if you agree or even disagree on anything Cyril might have noticed. So I personally enjoyed disagreeing with Cyril, but maybe I'm just lucky. So go ahead, Cyril. Thank you.
Well, if you ask me one thing, and just one thing to remember from the show, that was actually the demo that was on the back of a booth from Hermes. That was where they had their two DOCSIS 3.1 modem. And although they are not commercializable modem, if you want to put it in perspective, because they were pretty much the size of one of the Betamax VCR that you had in the past, but they were working, and they were able to demonstrate that actually DOCSIS 3.1 is closer than we think, and actually should be deployed priorly. We should start to see some field trial next year. And that, for me, was the most important thing from the show. And that brings actually a very interesting point based on how you started with the 99 and 2000 when we were talking about triple play. Actually, now we talk about many players, but if you think about it, it's just one big fat pipe that is IP to the customer, and everything will be riding on it.
Yeah, and I agree with that, Sorel, in terms of the big pipe and the difference that 3.1 is going to make. And I think it's a characterization of that pipe. Is it a smart pipe or not? And I think that as operators look at their service, they need to make an active decision of how are they going to create new services that really take advantage of that smart pipe.
I think you're right, but we see a lot of operators that are taking that to the other extreme and looking to get out of the content business to some extent and looking more at going to be just that fat pipe player, because it's more lucrative to be doing broadband services today than it is to be distributing content because of the increase in content costs and stuff like that that's been going on for a long time.
Oh yeah, content costs are painful. I think we're paying for a lot of sports celebrities' salaries. That is painful. At the same time, there's something that's very attractive about the content, and I think giving customers more options with respect to the content and how they can pay for the content. And I would expect to see some more sophisticated marketing come around. How do we subdivide our broad set of services, whether it's the voice or data or video services, especially as we have the ability to deliver not just to the big screen but to the tablet. So combining a media service to the tablet with a broadband data service, I think that's a different way of approaching how we bring content to customers.
Definitely the unification of the content in the home, I think, is a big push for a lot of operators and even customers out there today, because being able to get all of your content and all of your needs met, we're kind of an on-demand society these days, and having that stuff instantaneously available to you just seems like it's the not necessarily the holy grail, but it's where everybody's trying to get to with the devices, with the content, and with the equipment that they're purchasing.
Yeah, I see. You started off. We started the discussion off about looking back at the 2000s and the triple play coming on board. I also think that the increased personalization is also kind of a continuous trend that we see, and it's going to continue to have a big impact as well, because we talk about all these different content sources and content being available, but also there's additional metadata that helps us find the content that we're really interested in interacting with and enjoying either by ourselves or with friends.
And I think the pipe actually is going to help you to do that, because you will have such large access to your home that actually you can go to these mega servers and search for content. Like everything I want to know about the Giants, for example, right now on any feed.
Well, one of the back-end infrastructures that I saw hiding in, well, not necessarily in the corners, actually rather prominent, was the cloud DVR servers. There are a number of folks who were showing that, which to me is an interesting platform because it gets to what Sorel was mentioning with respect to being able to access content instantaneously over that smart pipe.
Definitely, and some of the stuff that we saw kind of around that same area was how that content's not just being delivered in the home anymore, but a lot of people are looking more out these outdoor services, kind of what Comcast and Time Warner and Cablevision started with the outdoor APs, and even repurposing some of your indoor cable gateways to do community Wi-Fi hotspot type services. It seems like that part of the business, as Tim was referring to, kind of got its start, back in the late 90s. Everybody was talking about this stuff, but it never really quite became reality, and now it's really seeming to pick up steam, and I think that that's going to be a nice contributing play for a lot of the service providers out there in trying to get content to their customers, no matter where they are in relation to their home and what they want at any one time from their service. So it's an interesting combination of these factors happening in our industry to make content and make the pipe, in general, more freely available to customers, wherever they are located in their travels.
We're going from a fixed line environment to a combination of fixed line and wireless. So just as The DOCSIS 3.1 is going to help us with that smart pipe. I think one of the challenges is on that wireless network. What's going to help us deliver that high level of QoS and satisfaction that our broadband customers are going to look for there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think actually, John, you bring a very good point, because now I have such a big pipe coming to the home, is even without thinking about roaming and being mobile and moving around the countries and having the same type of services, even within the home, is the pipe only comes to one place in the home. How do I deliver that to any tablet, any device in the home with minimum impact on my cost of dispatching technician and wiring an entire home? And that comes to the Wi-Fi. And I think Wi-Fi has very big advantages. In a way, it's a very accepted, simple technology, but also how do you verify that you do deliver the proper solution to your customer?
Yeah, I think that as we've matured as an industry, I remember back in the days where we would get these services out really quickly and we'd kind of hobble along a little bit, and don't mean to be overly critical there in terms of getting the support side out. But I think what's going to be critical now that we're much more mature is to have the operations and monitoring infrastructure in place so that we can get these services out to folks and they can be enjoying them right away. But I do think that there's broader trends with respect to data science and high level of storage that we can bring to bear on that problem.
Definitely, and we've seen the industry as a whole, the cable industry, starting to embrace Tier 69 and other capabilities around supporting their customers, trying to make the logistics of the implementation of these services easier for themselves. That stuff is really just in its infancy, even though it's been around for 10 years. As that continues to develop, as cable apps gets more involved, as the industry gets more involved, those capabilities, Tier 69, Tier 181, version 2, that type of stuff, I think can really make it easier for both the customers to help support themselves, but also for the operators to deliver a better overall service wrapped around any of the packages that they're trying to reach their customers with. Because without that back-end support and maintenance, some of this stuff really starts to fall apart pretty quickly.
Well, I think
were you guys able to keep going? I got dropped off and couldn't get on.
Oh yeah, we've just been rolling, Tim.
See you later, Tim. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
I wanted to build on what Greg had said, and it's one of the things we sometimes we forget about why we've been trying to go to the converged pipe, and one of the reasons to go there was to get those common operation tools that we can bring to bear and kind of cross-pollinate those tools for a variety of services. And as we migrate our video services onto the ITP pipe, or they join the broadband services, then we can draw from a common tool set and common best practices with respect to operations.
I wasn't. I didn't know where I lost you guys, so I'm going to just jump in, and if you've already covered it, just let me know. But I wanted to ask John, video devices themselves. Tell me a little bit about, what can you tell us about new video devices?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're seeing two things happening there. One is the proliferation of the customer-delivered device, and from a competitive point of view, we have to be addressing that. The other part is that this idea that the operator-provided device was going away, I think that's that was ill-predicted. I think that the operator continues to need to have a service point in which he can optimize delivery to his customers for the whole service. So I saw both those trends here, as everyone continues to get onto any platform as they get released, but at the same time continuing to pack value and capabilities into the operator's device in the home, whether that's a gateway that bridges both video and data, or whether it's the continued miniaturization of the set-top box and viewing device for the big screen.
Miniaturization to the point of disappearing?
Essentially, You'll reach a point where the form is more dictated by the interaction as opposed to what to a container for the device. So, for instance, the form may be dictated by how large does the thing need to be to support a decent antenna, as opposed to the pieces inside of it or the compute power and the amount of room that takes up.
I guess I'll ask this to the class, but do you think that this industry is hit a tipping point where the movement towards software has become a snowball, or is it almost there where hardware is going away and it's going to become pretty soon a pretty much 100% software-defined environment?
I don't think so. I mean, what we've seen is that software continues to develop, the cloud continues to develop, but the hardware has always needed to be there to deliver the service, to act as a termination point, or to augment what a customer might normally buy under their own power in order to get the best possible service from the operator. So, we don't see the hardware piece of it going away anytime soon. I mean, as people want more and more out of these services, and as the cloud becomes, more of just kind of an integrated part of the software and hardware solution, I think it will start to be minimized. But I don't think it's going to go away, because unless there's that platform in the home to deliver services, a majority of customers aren't wandering off to retail to buy their own products. Unless there are things like tablets and things that are really consumer devices. Set-top boxes and other, gateways, modems, that type of stuff, EMTAs, seem to still be very much the purview of the operator to provide to the customer if they want to deliver that service to them. And I don't see that changing probably next 10, 15 years. Even as much as they'd like to, get rid of the CapEx would be great.
Yeah.
Tim, any software that you have, it doesn't matter how small it is, it still needs to run on a piece of hardware because it just doesn't run out of thin air. And I take the example, I've been in this industry for 20 years, and about 20 years ago, the first thing that customer was telling us, our test and measurement, a dying industry, we're not going to need test and measurement. Look, we are 20 years and I made a business out of that. And you still need, of course, the test and measurement today has evolved in a great deal of, fanciness and powerness. But you still need test equipment. You still need to go there to show your customer that you deliver them what you told them you're delivering them.
Yep.
So I expect that. I'm still waiting for analog to go away. So
analog will never go away. John, I had another question for you, I think everybody in the broadband likes to talk about trends, but what trends are you seeing?
So some of the trends that I'm seeing is kind of a push beyond the hype around the cloud and actually get into the nuts and bolts of making use of it. What does it do well? What does it not do well? And if it maps into your specific problem, make use of it. Whereas I think before it was just being bannered about as just a phrase without what are the specific technical benefits that it brings, and do they actually map into the problem you're trying to solve?
Great. Greg, let me give you a little bit of the floor here, because the second biggest thing that I heard after DOCSIS 3.1, which I think I probably said 5,000 times over those 3 days, was Wi-Fi. And I know you've got a good deal of expertise in that, so tell me a little bit about your take on the industry and Wi-Fi as far as Wi-Fi in the home is concerned.
I definitely see that Wi-Fi is being driven more as an industry-wide effort. The amount of interest in the level of importance to customers' businesses that we hear from Wi-Fi these days is much greater than it was even 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. So having that high-quality, powerful, retail competitive type Wi-Fi service seems to be what everybody's looking for. And ourselves and many other vendors have been, spending a lot of time and effort to try to make sure that the products are the best possible within the range of cost and targets that customers have. So that goes from not just supplying the base service, and trying to get range, but also speed over range, making sure that medium range, long range performance is good, but also giving themselves tools to support those customers, like we were talking about a little bit earlier. Now, how do you get down and help the customer improve their network in the home or figure out a problem when you don't want to necessarily send somebody there in person all the time? Giving the operators or even the customers themselves these types of tools are, I think, are really important on something that we've been focusing a lot of time on in the industry as well. I think is receiving that via TR69, via integrated web UI tools, being able to picture what's going on in the home. And I think that that's just really important because no matter what type of service you're trying to deliver, we talk about Mocha, we talk about HomePlug, we talk about all these other technologies, but the easiest one still seems to be Wi-Fi. The one that everybody seems to be using is Wi-Fi. And while I think Mocha is going to start picking up, and the Mocha integrated gateways are going to be more important, especially for IP set-top boxes and things with guaranteed bandwidth needs, Wi-Fi is getting there. Gen 211 AC, I think, is going to be a big push next year, and between that and what the industry as a whole is doing to improve the Wi-Fi, I think we're going to see some neat stuff over the next 2-3 years, and what people can do with it in their home, I think, is going to continue to improve as the end devices, the CPE, the customers are purchasing themselves starts to turn over from some of these last generation devices to some of the newer, iPads, Android devices, things like that are going to make better use of the services.
So there's delivering good Wi-Fi, right? But then again, it's not just delivering good Wi-Fi and a good signal throughout the home or whatever premise, whether or not it's business or home. But there's also the managing of it. How do you think operators can better actually manage their Wi-Fi network?
I've seen many of the operators dabbling with TR69. It was something that we talked about a little bit earlier, but the MSOs kind of jumped into maybe 2-3 years ago. A lot of them didn't make the most of it because they didn't quite understand how to integrate it with their existing SNMP management capabilities and how to really make that a seamless experience for their CSRs. But I think what has been improved in the last year or two is that there's a lot more vendors. TR69, boom, when it first started hitting, we had a lot of vendors doing the ACS, and then most of those went away in kind of the bust times. A few stuck around, and those are finally starting to get their solutions to the point where they're competitive with some of the internal homegrown solutions that the MSOs have developed themselves or purchased for their SNMP networks and expect on their DOCSIS networks. So I think that seems to be the biggest trend that we've been seeing is people trying to go down that path and really improve the experience for the home customer via these tools that we mentioned in the device, but also have a way to pull that information back, the troubleshooting information, the wireless network information, the information about device performance, things like that, into a seamless way where if the customer's having a problem, it can quickly be targeted and corrected, or at least help the customer understand how they might be able to mitigate it. Because these services are becoming so prevalent and kind of, I'm also going to say like a utility. High-speed data is almost like your electric service. Many people don't know what to do without it. So it's very important that these end MSOs and their end customers start to get more familiar with that and have the tools and capabilities to help themselves, but also help their customers get the most out of it.
Especially if you have a teenager.
Oh, for sure.
That's a good comments. But I want to ask Cyril and John, anything else about Wi-Fi you'd like to share?
Well, I think for Wi-Fi, one of the biggest problems that you have when you have problem in a home from a service provider is like, when you look at the RF coming to your home or the pipe coming to your home, most customers see that as a black box. They don't know what's going on behind it. The only thing that they really have a sense for is kind of like, what is my speed? What do I get? And do I get the channel that I pay for on my TV? When it comes to Wi-Fi, because it started so long ago, a lot of customers they believe they are familiar with it, and they believe they know that it should work such and such. But when you go, like, for example, to AC, depending on how many radios you have, what service you support, and so forth, you might have devices in your home that bring your whole network down that has nothing to do with a service provider. It's just because you have all devices in your home. And that is in customer education. And I think that service providers are going to have a big problem with all this service running on Wi-Fi, to explain that to their customer, say, Mr. Customer, there's nothing wrong with what delivering to you. It's just because you put this old iPad here that is only an 11B, and you bring down your whole network because we don't have dual radio on the service we provided to you. Very simple example, but that does happen.
So you're only as good as your weakest link, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And additionally, I see that having just installed a Wi-Fi router in my son's apartment over the weekend, I think that it does continue to be an educational requirement, but I think it's the one that the operator can help the consumer with. And my son mostly did it himself while I sat around doing nothing. But for someone who's not 20 years old or has a dad who's an engineer, that can be challenging. And when I turn my view and work with my parents on doing the same thing, that's definitely a way to differentiate and to add value for the operator, especially someone who's been in the business of responding to customers' needs, whether it be with a cable modem or with a video service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as an industry as a whole, we've spent a lot of time, trying to develop these tools over the last many years, and we're going to continue spending a lot of time, also trying to get over the problems that were mentioned, around, when you get to Gen 211EC, trying to get past some of the issues where one slow device slows everybody down. You're getting to true multi-user MIMO. Things like that, I think, are what's going to start to make people notice again that the overall services can continue improving. Technology is trying to solve these problems, which I think is good. As an industry, we got to keep driving this forward, because until this becomes as easy as turning on your faucet or turning on the light switch in your home to have Wi-Fi, it's really not meeting its potential.
Well, and I think that Wi-Fi will enable you to indeed turn on your faucet in the home, and so I think that we started out about talking about the expo, and there was back in the corner someone turning a light switch on and off from their mobile device several hundred miles away or something such. Mm-hmm. And in terms of what form that takes and what consumer needs it addresses, but I think the same argument or the same discussion we had around how do we make Wi-Fi easy for the consumer, I think that can apply to any technology in the home. And does it become the operator's mandate to do that? Just like it became the operator's mandate to make broadband to the home itself easy, and to make digital television viewing easy, and using a DVR easy, and using an IP video voice service easy.
Well, this was a great conversation.
The MSOs that seem to be successful are the ones that are doing just that. Sorry, Tim.
This was a great conversation. The time flew. It's 3:28, and I promised each of you guys a little plug. I will start with you, Greg. Congratulations on your high diamond review score. You got 15 seconds.
Well, thank you, Tim. We were really pleased with the CGNM and how it performed in the testing. The MoCA integrated gateway, first of its kind, MoCA 2.0 certified, high power Wi-Fi, all the fun stuff that we've been talking about. And I think it's really going to help move the industry forward.
And what was the name of the product?
It's the CGNM, Hitron Technologies. It's a cable gateway with 11N, 11AC, and MoCA.
Great. And John?
Oh, well, thanks, Tim, for having me today. And what I just wanted to...
You're welcome.
So we were sharing with folks at the show the HDMI Express, which is kind of the next step beyond what you can do with Chromecast, that allows your entire operator video service to deliver to a very tiny device that plugs directly into the TV set. And that leverages a lot of these trends with respect to Wi-Fi and broadband that we've been talking about today.
Fantastic. Well, I enjoyed checking out that demo, by the way. That was really cool. And last but not least, Cyril, certainly not least.
So the name of the product is the VPAL, as you know well, but I think it's the VPAL. I had to. And it was not really something that we talked too much today, but it's a box dedicated for business services that is a big push for service providers in the MSO world. So we're very pleased to have a high diamond review on this one.
Very good. And then last but not least, Cyril, I believe your company is online as VeEXinc.com, correct?
Yes.
All right, and then Greg, I don't know yours.
It's Hitron-Americas.com or just HitronTech.com for the main company.
All right, and John?
Alticast.com.
All right, it's 3:30 p.m. My name is Tim Hermes. I'm the founder and publisher of Broadband Technology Report. I'd like to thank our parent company, Penwell Corporation, and especially our online services group, Nick Erdogan, who is always helping us with our Google Hangouts, and he's a blessing for me for sure. And I hope everyone who's been watching has a great afternoon, enjoys the rest of the week, and thank you for joining this Hangout. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right,
Tim.
bye-bye.
Bye.